Hey everybody, hope you're having a good morning. Going to go through my models again today. I have the NBA one right here. You can see what the market's been at since it opened, what the model's been, and the leans. I'm going to have college basketball at the end. NHL will be right before that. There's quite a few basketball games, college, and also quite a few NHL games. There's 15 today. So all of that'll be at the end. And then I'm going to go through the recap here for NBA from yesterday, and I'll go through each of these games one by one. All right, so the model was pretty in tune with Vegas yesterday. As you can see, the bottom five, the total was in the same range as what Vegas was throughout the day. So it would have depended on what time you actually made your bet if you would have hit the over or under. The top three all hit, missed that Miami on the spread and the over under. Two of the spreads were within range. That Utah Golden State game and the Cleveland Lakers game. The prediction was the same as the Vegas, and then went 4-3 on the other games. So pretty decent day. A lot of the ones where we have been hitting one over on the under has went our way this time. So pretty good day overall. All right, so the first one we're gonna have is Sacramento at Philly. The model likes Philly to win by about 7. Vegas is having the line at about 11.5 last I saw. My model likes it at about 231, and Vegas has it at about 228.5. So slightly on the over and on the Sacramento side. There are some injuries in this game. Monk and Westbrook for Sacramento were both questionable, and the last I saw, Embiid and George were probable, and Quentin Grimes was questionable for Philly. I think obviously both are for Sacramento are pretty big pieces, but Embiid and George, if they go, I like Philly. Um, it's a big spread. Like I said, I don't like double-digit spreads, but the model likes it from about 5 to 8.5, pretty consistent all week. It had that one dip on day 5 down to 5, but other than that, it's really been over 7. So if you wanted to try to move it down as a parlay piece to about 7, I think that would probably be a pretty good line. Going up to 11.5, I think things just get a little bit more questionable with both of these teams. Sacramento's defense is obviously the worst piece in this. They're at 119 on the rating. All the others are right around 113. So not terrible, but they're definitely below middle of the pack for the whole season. Um, like I said, I think my favorite on this would probably be Philly, um, but at a lower as a parlay piece. Right now, currently, it's at 231, so it is on the overside. But if you look at a lot of the last couple of days, it was at 227. Um, and the first, so it started at 230, it's back at 230, but it had a slight dip at 227. So depends on what you think Philly's going to do. I believe that was probably after the game that Embiid and George both missed. I don't remember who exactly they played, but it bounced right back. They played last game. So it's leaning on the overside, not a huge margin, but on that one too. Maybe if you wanted to buy it down, you could even just do it as the same game, buy a lower total, take the over, and buy a lower spread and take Philly. And I think that would probably be pretty good, especially if Monk doesn't play or Westbrook. Monk's been pretty hot off the bench when he's been playing recently, and Sacramento's still been struggling. They've lost 6 straight, and they're 3-20 on the road. Now they're 4-6 in their last 10, but like I said, the last 6 have all been losses. So Philly's 13-13 at home. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They're 2-3 in the last 5. It's just going to be that injury information for me. They both showed probable when I looked this morning, which to me says they're both going to play. If they both play, I think Philly should win this game pretty easily. All right, next game we have is Milwaukee at Washington. The model likes Washington by 6, and it likes the over by 1 point. Vegas has Milwaukee as about 3-point favorites, and it has the over/under at about 224 or 225. So, as you can see, the model's been pretty consistent on Washington all week. They had one dip to 1 point on day 5, but other than that, they have been favorites by 2, 3, 6. So, sitting at 6 today. The total's been between 221 and 226. So, while the model is picking the over by 1 point, to me, it's seeming slightly like it's favoring the underside. The only days that actually went over would have been day 1 and today. So maybe bump it up a couple points, take an under. Really, what you're going to be looking at is Milwaukee shooters. If they can get hot, get going, maybe the score goes up. Uh, this is a defense that will allow it. But like I said, they've been playing better recently, and Milwaukee has not. So I agree with the model on the Washington side here. I actually do like it. I think the money line might even be in play. Maybe even they could win by a few points. Who knows? That's what the model likes. But Milwaukee won on opening night by 13 at home, and Washington has won both games since. Even with all their struggles, 2 of the three games have been won by them, and it's been the last two. They've only won by 3 and by 1. One was at home, one was on the road. First and last day of December. So Milwaukee's 9-15 on the road, 3-7 in their last 10, 1-4 in their last 5. Same injuries, Giannis and Porter Jr. Washington's 8-16 at home, 1-9 in their last 10, but they won their last one, and 1-4 in their last 5, obviously. So last game they did beat Portland by 4. Uh, the only injury for Washington that I saw was Alexander Sarr was questionable. So if he doesn't play, that's a big hit to their inside. I think he might have had over 20 points last game. I do believe so. So he always gets a good amount of rebounds too, which good team to get rebounds against now, especially with Giannis out. But so hopefully he goes for Washington. That would make the model much more confident. If he doesn't go, I think then you're really looking at some of these 3-point shooters, AJ Green, Gary Trent Jr., all those for Milwaukee, and then Washington has the same, Bub Carrington. So, like I said, I think my favorite would be Washington, just because of the way Milwaukee just has been looking recently. Both defenses are bad. The over could definitely be live, so I'm not really a big fan on the total, but the model's just been leaning on that underside a little bit more. So even though right now it is one over, I think the model's leaning under just from recent play. It seems like everything's kind of trending down. It was just that one big jump there on Washington's score that pushed it back over. All right, next game is going to be Houston going to Atlanta after losing to San Antonio at home yesterday. So Houston is 12-13 on the road, 6-4 in their last 10, 3-2 in their last 5. The 2 losses was last night to San Antonio, which they looked pretty good early, and then San Antonio turned it on in that second half. And then the overtime loss to Philly, where they were up, and then I think it was Maxey hit a shot at the end of the game to send it into overtime. They ended up losing. So their losses haven't been bad losses. Um, if they had won both of those games, they'd be 8-2 right now. But on the other side, Atlanta 9-13 at home, 6-4 in their last 10, 4-1 in their last 5, and all 4 are their last 4 games. So they have been really hot recently. The model's not really picking a favorite here. It started Houston by a point, flipped to Atlanta for a brief second on day 3, and it's grown to on the Houston side. But both teams did play last night, and after last night's games, it pulled it right back to half a point on Houston's side. So model's not really confident. Vegas has the line at about 3-4 for Houston, and it has the total at about 225, 226. So Houston is favored by 1 point in the model, and it's about 229 on the total. So it likes Atlanta to cover the spread, and it likes the over. The total has been shifting. It was dropping the first days, and then it started going up, and then it dipped again. So I think the line is probably set pretty close to what it'll be. I don't know. I don't know that it'll get up to the 230s that the model has on a couple of these days. Actually, most of these days are 230 or higher. So the model does like the over. I don't know. Atlanta's the team that their offense is so streaky that it's hard to really know what they're gonna do. Their rating is only 112, but I'm sure they have games that are really much lower and some games that are much higher than that, just because of how streaky they are. And then their defense is the worst defense. They got a 114 to 110 defensive rating. So they have the better offense, worse defense, and they're very streaky. I think, man, I kind of like Houston in this game. After they got beaten that Philly game, they went to Detroit that very next night and won in Detroit, and they played a very good game. After losing to San Antonio last night, that's kind of the feeling I'm having that they're going to do with Atlanta tonight. But the model's not really confident on either side. It's definitely leaned more Houston and leaned more over. Um, I don't think this is one of my favorite games. There's no head-to-head data for the season. Um, Injury information, it looked like Okongwu and Rishisher are questionable. So if he comes back and Okongwu plays, that'll be better for Atlanta. If Okongwu sits, then I'm definitely on the Houston side. Houston has way too many people at, I guess, both sides of these. Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Aman Thompson, Şengün, KD. There's a lot of really good defensing or rebounders in this game. A lot of good playmakers. So it should be a good game to watch. I think with as streaky as Atlanta's been, this is one that I'll stay away from, though. All right, next game we have is Miami going to Chicago. Both teams did play last night. Miami ended up losing to Orlando by 9, and Chicago blew a lead to Indiana by 3. So Orlando had been on a 14.4 game losing streak and still are undefeated against Miami in 4 games this year. That was kind of crazy. I thought Miami was going to win that pretty easily. But the NBA is insane. So, anyways, we'll get into today's game. So, Miami's 10-15 on the road, 5-5 in their last 10, 3-2 in their last 5. Hero is doubtful today. Mitchell is questionable. Chicago 15-10 at home, 6-4 in their last 10, 3-2 in their last 5. Trey Jones was doubtful. No head-to-head, but they're playing 3 straight games in the next 4 days against each other. So, like I said, I already went through the injuries. I don't know why the spread changed from 6.5 to Miami on Chicago to Miami at 2.5. A 9-point swing is pretty crazy. So I don't know what happened there. I didn't see it at 6.5. I just go to the website that lists all of the totals and over unders, and it said that that's where it was at. So that's crazy that it would swing that much with so little changing. But the model has been getting more towards Miami. It was shifted from 8 points down to 1 point over the week, and every single day has been a downward trend in the spread. The total has been going up all week, so little fluctuations down after a couple of days, but mostly positive the entire week. So, like I said, the Vegas switched it from 6.5 to Chicago to Miami 2.5. So the model's on the Chicago spread side. And then it went from 237.5 to 242.5. So a big jump there. And the model was already on the underside, so it is still on the underside. I think both of these teams can score and not play defense. As you can see, Chicago's offensive rating is incredible, 121. Their defense, both of them, 116.3. So neither defense is good. They both give up points. Chicago's offense typically scores more. Yesterday was a bit concerning, though. They had, I want to say, a 15-point lead, something like that, 14 maybe, with like half a quarter left in the fourth, and they blew it really bad and lost by 3 regular time. So not sure what's going on with Chicago. Nothing new was to the injury list, so I would assume no one got injured in any of that, but maybe a little weary of Chicago if they can't even close it out against Indiana. Hero being doubtful, I would not expect him to play. I don't think that's going to be an issue. Mitchell questionable. Obviously, if he doesn't play, it impacts the team, but I didn't see Powell on there or Bam or anybody like that that would impact the game more. So I kind of like this as a pushy game. I don't really know who's gonna win. So with that being said, I like Chicago on the spread still. The fact that they were such big favorites, I guess it's not a good thing that they've been dropping that much, but the potential is there. Especially being at home, first game of 4 against each other, or of 3 against each other in 4 days. I think Chicago might steal one here. I think the next 2 are in Miami. so they'll really need to get this one at home. I kind of like the over. It's been trending up. Both offenses can score. Neither defense is great. I think that's probably my favorite play. Maybe even buying it down back to the original line if it is up at the 242, um, or buying some extra points on Chicago. I think would be my two plays. But again, I don't think this is a favorite game either. Neither team's incredibly consistent. All right, now we got Charlotte and Dallas, another game where both teams played yesterday. Um, Charlotte is favored by 3 to 4 points or to 5 points, whatever. And the total is around 227.5 to 230.5. So the model likes Charlotte by 3, so it likes Dallas to cover. And it has about 233 on the total, so the over. The model has been on Charlotte, increased, slight decrease on day 3, and then just been increasing ever since on that. I think Charlotte with the spread is probably my favorite pick on this. Just the way they've been playing has been really, really good. They've won 4 straight. They've won 7 of their last 10. They're 11 and 15 on the road, though. So early season struggles, recent data. I like Charlotte. Dallas has been playing pretty well too, though. They're 14 and 13 at home, 5 and 5 in their last 10. They're 3 and 2 in their last 5. No head-to-head data, but Flagg and Thompson are on the injury report as questionable for Dallas. Just Simpson for Charlotte, so not a big injury there. But Dallas, with Charlotte, the way they've been playing, Brandon Miller's been really hot. Concanapple had an off day yesterday, and they still looked really good. Blew Memphis out by 15. So Charlotte's offensive rating is 118.3, really good. Their defensive rating is 110.4. So I think their defense is probably a little underrated. These are more recent. It's not overall season ratings. Dallas is 113 for their offensive rating, 113 for their defensive rating. So pretty even on both sides of the ball. The fact that Charlotte's been better offensively and better defensively, I like them. If you want to be safer, you could probably go money line and get it a decent line. But the spread looks pretty good to me. The total, I would probably lean. Oh, man. If Thompson doesn't go and Flagg doesn't go, I would probably lean on the underside. If they both play, I think the over is probably more likely. But yeah, on if you're going to go with a total, I would try to wait for more injury information. I think the injury information can only help Charlotte, so I think the spread there is probably pretty good. All right, now we'll get into Brooklyn going to Denver tonight. Model likes Denver to win very easily. Some of the things I've seen haven't been as strong, but all right, we'll go through all that. Vegas has Denver at 6 to 8 points on the spread, and 210 to 215 is where it's been on the over/under. Like I said, my model likes Denver by about 14, 15 points, and it has the over at about 222. So it's been pretty consistent on Brooklyn. 105 went up to 107 right away, and then it's been dropping. On Denver, it had them 117, 116, 118 all week. Pretty consistent on what it thinks they're going to do. Brooklyn dropping off has been the biggest change in the spread. So it has liked Denver to cover the spread all week long. And it has liked the over all week long. And it's been pretty confident. But as we know, Brooklyn's not a very good team. So Brooklyn is 6 and 16 on the road. They're 1 and 9 in their last 10. They've lost 6 straight. They've lost 11 of 12. But the game before that 12th game, they beat Denver 127 to 115 at home on the 4th of January. So they are 2 and 3 at home in January. Their only teams they've beat at home are Washington and Milwaukee. So they've been struggling at home, but the types of teams they have been able to beat are these Brooklyn teams. Denver's 12 and 9 at home on the season, 6 and 4 in their last 10. They're 3 and 2 in their last 5 games. Murray and Valanciunas were both questionable, and Clowney and Mann were questionable for Brooklyn. And then Denver still has Brown, Gordon, Johnson, Jokic, all of them out. So Denver is still extremely injured, and Brooklyn is still extremely volatile because if Michael Porter Jr. starts hitting threes, which Denver is known to give up, they can start to score points and push Denver a little more. I don't expect Denver to win like that. A lot of that I think is just more Brooklyn being terrible recently and it's dropping off how much they think they can score. But this might be a game where Denver thinks that they can rest Murray, get him some extra rest if he actually needs it. I think the spread will be way closer than that. I think Denver still has a really good chance of covering it. Um, the fact that Brooklyn beat them by 12 earlier this month is pretty crazy. I don't see that happening again. If you look at Brooklyn's offensive rating versus their defensive rating, 106 versus 121. Denver's got a better offense and has a pretty good defense. I mean, especially with the injuries, they've been hanging around and just pushing teams. So I would expect Denver to win. I think they'll probably cover the spread. I would definitely wait to make sure who's playing. If Clowney is out for Brooklyn and Murray, especially if Murray and Valanciunas both play for Denver, getting Valanciunas and a big man back in that lineup will be huge for them. So I would wait for the injury report. Brooklyn's not a team I like to go against. They'll get in a close game when a spread's too large, and that's happened to me multiple times. I think I probably bet on Denver the last time these teams played because I think Denver was still riding really hot after that Jokic injury. But I don't know. Not a good game in my opinion. Too many injuries and just a not good team in Brooklyn. So yeah, if you have a good line on this, let me know in the comments. If you have something that you really like, let me know because I want to like Denver as much as my model does, but that head-to-head matchup and all of their injuries just make me really weary of it. All right, now we got Detroit heading to Phoenix. Model likes Detroit to win by a couple points. Vegas has the line set at 4-5, so a few more points over that. The over/under is set 214 to 217, and the model likes it at about 218, so slightly on the overside there. And on the Phoenix side, as you can see, the model's a little confused. They liked Phoenix for a little bit. I believe that was probably after Detroit lost to that Philly game where Detroit dipped a little bit. I think they had a couple back-to-back games. If that Boston game was close too, they scored a little less. But recently they started scoring more again and went back up. So, but it's been fluctuating all week. So neither team has been consistent in their score. So it's not like one team's just dropping off like we saw in the last one. This is both teams fluctuating around and the model just really not knowing what to do. I think injuries, again, are going to be very key. Booker, from what I saw, is still out. And Gillespie and Green were both questionable for Phoenix. Like I've said before, Phoenix needs Jalen Green to play because they have no speed on that team. When their offense gets into the zone, they can pass the ball around, but the defense doesn't have to worry about hardly anything except a three-point shot. So they cover the threes, they cover that offense. So Detroit can definitely play defense, and if they don't have Jalen Green in there, even Gillespie can add a little bit more spark than a lot of those players have. So the only injury for Detroit was still Karis LeVert, not a huge injury in their lineup. So I would tend to agree with the market here and think Detroit's going to win by more than 2, but I'm not sure why the line is even at 3.5, 5.5. Detroit keeps close games, so there is that. It is in Phoenix, but just from what I have seen, I don't see Phoenix covering that spread. Phoenix is 15-6 at home, 6-4 in their last 10, 3-2 in their last 5. Detroit's 15-6 on the road, 8-2 in their last 10, 4-1 in their last 5. and Detroit won 108-105 at home on the 15th. I'd have to go back and look. I know earlier this month, Jalen Duren and Cade were both missing games. I'm not sure if that's one of them, but I feel like it might have been. If that's the case, then I definitely like Detroit on the spread. If not, then Phoenix has shown they can keep it close. But Phoenix lives and dies by the 3, and against a team like Detroit, that's not really the way you want to go, because you have to really start hitting them. You're going to start getting limited possessions. If they build a lead, you're going to be fighting the comeback. So Detroit's offensive rating, 114. It is 4 points higher than Phoenix's, and their defensive rating, 101.5. Absolutely great. Phoenix's is 112.7. So their defense is not bad. It is just that streaky offense. Same with Atlanta. Like, both of those teams, they can go so long without scoring points, and then they can just pile them on top of you in no time. So I'm on the Detroit side. I'm on the Detroit spread side. The over-under is where I think it gets risky. You have a really good offensive or defensive team in Detroit against a team that may not score, and that will suppress points. And if that's the case, you're going to want the under. If Phoenix is hitting their shots and they push Detroit into an actual game of having to score, not just having to keep a lead, then the over will become much more live. Okay, we have the last game of the NBA. We got OKC in Minnesota. Model likes OKC to win by 4, and it likes the over. It's at about 232. Vegas is at 226-ish. So Vegas likes OKC by about 6 or 7. So it's on the Minnesota. The model is on the Minnesota side of the spread, and it is on the over side. The model has liked the OKC all week. It did drop down to pretty much a push-em game on day 6 yesterday. And then after Minnesota's game yesterday, it went ahead and pushed OKC back up to about a 4-point. So Minnesota did win yesterday, and they scored 118 points. So it's a little questionable to me why the model all of a sudden pushed it up, but it's going to have to do with games that fell off of like their last 3 game averages, last 5 game averages, last 10 game averages. Also, it could be head-to-head data, maybe a team that they lost to beat somebody else and it doesn't look as bad. Things like that can happen. But that's a pretty big jump for them winning a game and scoring 118 points and OKC not even playing. So I'd be a little concerned about that. Again, it also could just be correcting itself from an overcorrection. As you can see, it was day 3, day 4, it was like in OKC a little more, and then it dropped really bad. So maybe it realized that new information was not as good, and it's going back to what it originally thought. Either way, it likes OKC to win, but not to cover the spread. So maybe you would want to look on the Minnesota side. The injuries in this game are going to be the biggest thing. It looks like OKC does get Hartenstein back. That's going to help out a lot because Hartenstein likes to rebound more than Chet, it seems like. Chet will get him sometimes, but Hartenstein seems way more consistent. And also he lets Chet get it outside a little bit more where he seems like he wants to play. So getting him back would be huge. Cason Wallace still looked like he was questionable. Minnesota still just had Shannon. He's been out all season, I think. So OKC did win at home on 11/26 November. They won by 8, 113-105. Minnesota won 112-107 at home on the 19th of December. So they've each won at home, and the scores have been pretty close. The 113-105, 112-107. So you're looking at 118 and 119 on the scores, or 218 and 219, excuse me. So the past games have gone under quite a bit. Recent play has the model liking the over. So if you look at both teams' offensive ratings are really good. 117.6, 116.4. Minnesota's defensive rating is 110. Actually pretty good, but OKC's is 104. So when you get 2 good defenses against each other, that's why those games both went under. The model's liking the over. To be honest, the under just on the past matchups and their defensive ratings looks pretty good. It's just to me, it's going to depend on how much more OKC's offense clicks with Hartenstein in the lineup. For a big man, he can get a couple assists. He moves the ball pretty well. He has that really weird shot that he drops from like 3 feet out. But I think I would be on OKC winning. Minnesota's just struggled a little bit recently. Um, so I wouldn't be too confident in them beating OKC. If the spread is up higher than 6.5, I think it gets a little risky though. Minnesota still has a good team. They still can score. They have a good defense. They just if Ant can play and if Dante can hit his threes, if they can get help from Jaden McDaniels, from Randall, from anyone else, then they can keep this a close game. All right, here you have the NHL game. So it is ordered from the model's confidence to lowest for the day. It likes Minnesota over Calgary the best. It likes Vegas over the struggling Stars, although the Stars have won their last 2 games. It likes that one, and then it likes Tampa over Winnipeg. New York and the Rangers and the Islanders, they both played yesterday. They played each other, I mean. They just played at the home of the Islanders. The Islanders won 5-2. There was not even a goal in the third period, so that was all early scoring. So uh, the model is less confident on New York today. It likes him in a close one. New York, I should say the Rangers. The Rangers are typically better on the road this season, though. They've had a really bad average at home, and they've been way better at home or on the road. So the fact that they got beat by 3 yesterday, I would not be confident in the Rangers. I wasn't yesterday. If you watched the video, well, I guess you wouldn't have heard it because my microphone was dumb. But yeah, I like the Islanders. I can see why it's a low confidence. Just that I would not trust that one. Um, but yeah, 15 games to choose from today. As I've said before, if you haven't watched, what I would do is go through each day and look at how it's moving. You're going to want to see it moving in the same direction to build a little more confidence. So, like the top one, Minnesota gained zero point 0.1 from day 1 to day 2. They gained 0.3 from day 2 to day 3. They lost 0.1 at day 4, stayed the same day 5. And then they gained, what, 0.4 more on day 6. So it has been increasing steadily throughout the week in the Minnesota direction. Um, so on all the rest of those, that's what you're going to look at. Look at each day and see what the spread changes. So for tomorrow's, I might change that and have it put the spread instead of the actual score because the totals aren't. The totals are hard anyway for NHL because there's just so few goals. So to get it close is difficult. The averages are where it's going to come closest to, which for most teams is going to be around 3. So that's why that's where that's at. But yeah, if I put the spreads in there, it may make it easier because then you can see how much bigger, how much smaller it's getting each day. On my actual sheet, I have a percentage that I go off of, and it does make it easier. So I'll try to get that in there for you tomorrow. Like I said, there's a lot of college games. I got 4 pages of this, so just go through it real quick. If you didn't just watch the NHL, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to see what the spread is doing. So if the spread is getting larger each day, then that's building confidence in that pick. If it's fluctuating, like getting bigger one day, smaller one day, bigger one day, smaller one day, then it's not really confident. It's kind of flip-flopping on where it thinks it's going to be. Sometimes that spread can still be all in one direction. Sometimes it can be back and forth on who's even going to win the game. So obviously, if it's in one direction, you're going to be looking more at how big of a spread do you like. If it's team to team, that is one where you might want to look at an underdog and see if you can get a line on them that you like. If you think it's a good pick, the model is going to miss. There's error in every single model that will ever be made. So it's going to be hard on the ones that flip from team to team. A lot of times it does that with teams in smaller conferences where they'll get blown out really bad one game and then they'll win by a lot in another game where they play a team that's more of their tempo. more their size school and all of that. So we'll go into the next pages real quick, but these are the most confident picks from the model. So Illinois, UNC Asheville, High Point, Iowa State, Troy. These are the most confident that they will win the game. And then you can figure out the spreads from the predicted scores from day 1 to day 5 and see what you want to go with there. All right, so these are getting into some more of the medium to low confidence ones. If you look at the Tennessee one, it doesn't actually flip from team to team. It's just lower confidence because the spread is a little tighter. As you can see, it does go from 3 to 2 to 3 to 3 and now to 4. So it had day 2 was a growth back. Tennessee State was a growth back towards. Not sure who LIRO is. But whoever Tennessee State's playing was a growth back towards them. But then it's been growing steadily back towards Tennessee State. So that's something that I would look at and be like, the model has low confidence in it, but it's trending more towards Tennessee State. So if the money line is a decent option, look through the recent games, check and see, and make sure the data makes sense to you. But the model is liking them a little bit more after that. If you look at North Florida right above them, they had a 6-point spread, a 1-point spread, a 7-point spread, a 1-point spread, and a 5-point spread. So I'm surprised it's even at a 54 low confidence, because even though that has all been in North Florida's direction, the fact that it's fluctuating so much means that those teams are not teams the model is really confident in. It thinks it has a good read on who's going to win the game, but that big spread, that's not a game that I would really trust. I'm looking for something that is consistent every day of the week, trying to go from one to the next. So we'll go on to the next page real quick. It's going to all be low confidence games. All right, so here we have more low confidence games from Lipscomb, Lindenwood. It's not just the size of the spread, I should say, that is building the confidence. There are other factors, but that's the easiest thing that you're going to be able to see to determine what you're going to want to roll with and what you're going to like. Like I said, the confidence, if these same games were played on a different day, they wouldn't have the same confidence very likely because it goes per day. It ranks the games of that day by its confidence, and then it gives them a number that coincides with the confidence related to the other games. So it's not a per day. It's not like a built-in confidence model. It's just telling you, trying to rank them for you to make it easier for you to see for today. So I still don't really see any flips on the page. It's just a lot more closer games and games where the spread's changing more throughout the week. And then these will be the lowest confidence games. As you can see, Chicago, probably Chicago State and St. Francis down there in the bottom one, flipped every single day on who it thought it was going to win. So it expects a close game, or it just really does not understand the teams. It can be either or. So that's where you get tricky with these games. If it's that low of a confidence, I would expect it's just not understanding the teams very much. So trying to play it as a close game could get risky. There's been times where I've tried to play the underdog on these, just as like, oh, it doesn't know who's gonna win, so it should be close, and then it'll be a blowout because that's how college goes. So like I've said before, do not just go off of the models. Make sure you're doing your own research, checking out, making sure everything looks good to you. If you have any questions, if there's anything else I can help you with, you can leave a comment. But I'd be happy to help you out. I'll try to get you more information if I can, anything that I can do. Trying to figure out a good way to do this still to get it out there. I can't go live till I get 50 subscribers, so got a little bit to go there. So I'm trying to figure out a good way to present these in videos for you. But hope everything goes well for you. Good luck and have a good day.